Okay, cool. Hey guys, welcome. As promised, I know I'm a little bit late here, but I wanted to do the third installment of the live practice building a story using the Story Genius method part 2. I'm going to retitle this whole series Story Quest with Story Genius just to make things a little bit simpler, but let me show you what we've got going on so far. So over here in the live practice, we've got building a story using the Story Genius method, and I'm already in the blog post. And so far, what we've done is we've opened up Lisa Cron's book, Story Genius, and I'm kind of live workshopping the the process of going through a blog post. So why am I doing this? I'm doing this because whenever I'm going to go back. Okay, why am I doing this? I'm doing this because whenever I haven't in the past, the stories on Third Person Creative have followed a very predictable pattern. They are hang on, sorry. They're great stories, first of all, I think, in my opinion. I think they're great. I think they've got a great plot. I think they've got a good character development. I think they've got a good outline, except for one little detail that makes them less great. And that is the main character doesn't really solve an internal problem. So the story ends up being a series of events that happen to a main character rather than just being rather than being things that cause change within that character. Does that make sense? And I kind of picked up on this. I was like, I feel like I just throw things at my main characters, and I feel like what happens is they just kind of experience them. Like it's a bunch of things, the story becomes a bunch of things that happen to the character rather than the character learning from them or experiencing them. And so you don't really get into the character's heart and head. I feel like I did a little bit better with that in doing laundry, but it was completely by accident. Story Genius kind of turned that whole thing around. So real quick, let's recap here. So in part one, okay, so this is just me talking about doing laundry, but in part one, sorry. I talk about the book. I talk about what went wrong. This is Lisa Cron's book, Story Genius. You can probably find it on Amazon, just a guess. And I will put a link below the video when this is all over. Right. So the first part is the first pinprick. So this is where the kind of inception of the idea starts to take place. And for me, I was looking at a pillar. We were in Loperi. Let me show you that real quick. So we were in Loperi. We saw this pillar, and we're all looking at it, and someone says, hey, there's a legend behind that pillar. It was shot from a bow and arrow, and then boom, it became a pillar. I was like, well, that's kind of a crazy idea. What if that became kind of the premise to a story? So we went from there to following through Lisa's book. So the second steps are in part 2. So we went. So I'm going to go ahead and navigate to part 2 here of the series, and I'll show you this. So here we are, we're in part 2, and the question that Lisa wants us to answer is, why do I care? So we care because it's a fantastic. I think that this idea of a bow and arrow firing and firing arrows that turn into pillars, I think it's fantastic in a way that forces the story up to a more interesting world. I think besides the mental image of an arrow flying through the air and landing as a finished pillar is just cool to me. So I'm going to run with it. And then she had us take this tertiary step of answering the question, what's the point? So for me, I think this step was a little bit harder because in the past, I've wanted to make a story believable. I wanted this laundry list of things to be done, but now I'm wanting to make this point of being right never gives permission to treat others as inferior. So this right here. I want to talk about this for just a second. So this is dramatically different than any story I've written in the past, for the main reason of whenever I've created a story in the past, I've created a world, I've created characters, I've created a plot. And then, and only then, at that point, do I ask myself the question, okay, how can I tweak the plot to make my point? Lisa's method is completely backwards to me, because now we're asking, what point do I need to make and what plot do I need to build around making that point? So it kind of it looks at it from the other perspective. And I think this is going to be really effective because I'm building the story around the theme rather than forcing the theme into the story. And this is crucial. So why do I think it's crucial? I think it's crucial because I'm not having to it's just going to be less force, right? So this is all experimentation. I don't actually know if Lisa's method's really going to work. So I'm doing this to kind of experiment with her ideas, and I'm just wanting to show you guys the whole process. So what I've done is I've taken these ideas. Let me just make sure that this is showing up for you guys. Yeah. Okay. So I've taken these ideas and now I've put them into a Google Doc that I'm going to actually share with you guys. I want you guys to have access to kind of the creative process as I go through the creative process. So I've kind of summarized them here. So the first pinprick: a boy's given a bow and arrow. All the arrows he shoots turn into pillars. Awesome. I care. It's fantastic in a way. Da 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 da. We just went over that. What's the point? Being right never gives permission to treat others as inferior. I'm really wanting to make that point because of, to be honest, a lot of the things that I read on Facebook, where people, they take a stand that may be correct, they may absolutely have their theology in a row, their sociology in a row, their psychology in a row, their logic in a row. However, they're going about sharing that idea or sharing that opinion or sharing that stance as a complete jerk or a troll. And I'm like, man, that just rubs me the wrong way. And rather than, I guess, shaming people or bringing it out in the open on Facebook, I was like, for me, I think the most effective thing I can do is write a story that kind of illustrates, okay, why is that a bad idea? Where does that ultimately lead? What if we not only treat others as inferior on Facebook, but what if we did that in our everyday life? What does that look like when we let it bleed into our personal lives as well? So Lisa's step 4 is what if. What if a small boy is given a bow and arrow, but all of the arrows turn into pillars once they land? His village is threatened, and so he builds a wall of arrows to protect it, but he's a total jerk about it. Belittles all of his friends, counselors, and family for their ideas. His arrogance leads him to foolishly abandon his best friend, be tricked by an opposing village, and it results that the opposing village steals all their food. So in order to make amends, get his food back, he's got to humble himself, listen to those he belittled, and plan to undo his mistake. So right now, I have a what if that kind of outlines the plot. It outlines the plot, it outlines the story, but the whole like movement of this idea is to make this point of being right does not give us the license to treat others as inferior. It just doesn't. So even though this little boy is right about how he went about protecting his city and he was justified, the way he treated other people after that, we're going to see in the story, really matters. Now, I haven't written the story yet. I want to do all of that live. So not only is this kind of a behind-the-scenes look at what happens and goes into a blog post, which I understand is going to make the whole process take a lot longer, but I'm okay with that. Not only is it going to be that, it's also going to be story creation, and we're going to be experimenting with this idea of, or the method rather, that's presented in Story Genius. I'm only on chapter 4 of the book, so I'm kind of like, I guess, periscoping, if you will, what's happening as it's happening, so that you guys can kind of follow along. So let's dive right back in, and I'm actually going to show you a little bit about how, this is making everything work. So here we are in the Google Doc, and, oh no. Okay, here we are in the Google Doc. I want to make sure that, okay, we are in the Google Doc, and I'm going to go ahead and Okay, cool. Martin, Brian, I see you guys. Great. I'm going to go ahead and start right here and start the blog post. So this is how most of the blog posts on Third Person Creative look to kind of start out. So I'm going to go with, let's see. So in so I've never written blog live before. This feels completely different than for writing it. Got you guys looking over my shoulder. In the previous two parts, I went through Lisa's method of generating a story. Yeah. Drag. Thematic question. Thematic to the question. So now we're fleshed out. What if question or can the so now I'm kind of stuck, right? Because I'm like, okay, how do I describe this what if question? I want to. What do I want to do? I want to describe it as, because we're faced with developing a fleshed out what if question that gives our reader, that gives, really, we're not writing for the reader anymore, we're writing for us, that gives, so now, and you guys I guess aren't really, well, yeah, you guys are kind of faced with it as well. Okay, gives what if question that gives us a more full picture of character and apply to test him in a way while testing him in a way that me. Okay, so very quick here. Okay, so let's talk about how I developed this what if. So I needed something that I realized that in order to kind of create an environment where my main character is faced with something that man, this is tough for an internal processor. I normally process everything inside my head, and now I'm like having to process it outside of my head. It's like, it's hard. It's just real talk right there. It's just real talk. So I know that But I'm really good at talking to myself. I can do that pretty much all day long. So we'll see how this goes. This first video might be a little shaky. So in the, yeah, I know I've got to make the point of treating others as inferior when we're right is wrong. Or let's see, being right does not give us license to treat others as inferior. I know I got to make that point. So now I got to create an environment where that point really makes a lot of sense. So I need my main character to first, he needs to do something right. He needs to be correct about something. So I'm going to throw in this like magical realism of he shoots an arrow that turns into pillars, and I'm going to make it where he's correct about when he needs to kind of use his gift, use his ability. Okay, that's the first thing. The second thing I need him to do is I need him to actually treat other people as inferior so that I can demonstrate or like really show the fallout from that. Okay, why is it wrong? Why is it wrong to treat other people like garbage on Facebook when you're right about gun control, or you're right about the fallout of a shooting, or you're right about transgender bathrooms? Am I hitting close to home? Or you're right about religion or politics, or you're right about this candidate or that candidate? Why is it wrong to totally destroy someone online? Why is it wrong to totally destroy someone in person and dehumanize them? Why is that wrong? So I need a story that demonstrates the fallout of that. Because we want to go for something bigger. We want something with a little bit more legacy and a little bit more hitting power than just a one-off comment that we leave on somebody's Facebook feed. We want to write a story. It's because a story sticks with us. A story changes us. We internalize what the main character internalizes. We experience what the main character experiences, and it changes us. I mean, that's what makes storytelling so powerful. Yes, we want influence, and yes, I think we want excellence, but we also want to help people. We also want to challenge people to become better human beings and really to self-reflect on their actions. So that's kind of the heart behind why I'm writing this story. I was like, I'm responding to some of the things that I'm seeing in my culture, and I'm going, wow, we really need a story that addresses the problem. So my character's got to treat people like a jerk after he's been right about something. Then he needs to experience some serious fallout. So what are some things that could happen to him when when he starts treating people like a jerk? Well, to me, the most logical thing is people lose respect for him. Maybe his best friend walks out on him. And then maybe something really catastrophic happens that affects not just him, but his entire village. So let me dive back into the story here. And okay, great. Oh, great, we're already good. Okay. Okay, great. Sorry about that. For me, I needed, right, so let me verbalize some of that here. So I needed a scenario where the little boy was, and then I'm going to make a list here. One, write about something. Write about something. Two, responded to his justification poorly. 3, faced serious consequences for his poor response. 4, and then this is where I give the remedy, right? So, and then humbled himself to humbled himself and made the appropriate changes to make. So kind of this is the order of the what if, right? So now I can take this what if, and I'm actually going to put this in a quote here. And I can say, so this is the what if I landed on it. Great. And I'm going to put all of this in italics. And then I'm going to say, I'm gonna actually call this done. So I think these live posts, because the videos are this video is gonna be so long. I mean, I'm already running at like 20 minutes. I'm gonna leave the blog post really, really short, just for you guys' sake. So I'm copying all of that text, and I'm actually gonna log into third person creator. And we're actually going to create this post to schedule for later today. So adding a new post. Let's see. Great. Usually, I'm gonna go. This is just boring technical stuff. Don't worry. Add some heading stuff, and then add some more heading stuff. So what I'm doing here, in my theme, heading 1 makes things look really big like this. So if I open the HTML tag heading 1 and then I close the heading tag, it highlights all of that. So if you're in WordPress and this is what you do, and this is how you create posts, and this is a way to use that text feature. And then I need to, I'm gonna actually go over to my other video where I've got the post, and I'm gonna actually swipe my own title, add that, and I'm gonna call this story quest with story genius part 3. Then okay, this is the result of the live video shot see YouTube. I'm gonna actually post this video on YouTube, by the way. I'm on the channel. Figure I might as well do something with it. Put it in the trainings category. Featured story genius. I'm gonna use for color. That one. I need to explore experiment. Lisa story genius. Great. And then details, paste that in, and then I'm going to nope, not what I wanted to do. This should be February 8th. So for you guys, this is actually going to be tomorrow morning. For me, it's tonight. For you, it's tomorrow morning because I'm in a different time zone. So probably, unless you're in Southeast Asia, in which case it's just going to be later today at 5:45. And then I need to preview this. First, I'm going to save the draft. Great. And then I'm going to preview the post. Like the whole process, man. You guys get to see everything. Now, granted, when I don't do live videos, it allows me to write longer posts, but I have a feeling that if I story quest story James part 3, consequence of doing things live, this is the what I landed on. Great. So okay, I'm gonna check out of the video real quick and read this to make sure it doesn't sound like complete garbage. So Illustrates. Okay, so I need illustrates. That main point. Spacing there. Just okay. So then, all right. So I actually want my what if to be in a block quote. You think my if post around, then let's see like no, great. Sorry. Great. Awesome. Okay. Good. 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 Okay. Boom. All right. So this thing's scheduled. Okay, cool. That's it. So we are right at we are like right at 30 minutes. So you basically watched me write a blog post from start to finish in 30 minutes. We talked about why we want to use the Story Genius method and that we're experimenting with a new idea in order to add some humanity into the story. We want to make the characters more relatable rather than our stories coming out, or rather than my story coming out as being something that's just a series of events. I'm really just kind of tweaking and troubleshooting some of the problems that I've noticed with my storytelling strategies. But maybe you have identified this method as something that could solve maybe your problems with your stories. So I hope it works, fingers crossed. And we'll see what the finished product looks like in a few weeks. I don't really know how long it's going to take me to write this thing. I'm just going through them. So, okay, awesome. Thank you guys so much for watching and for tuning in. And yeah, go check out the site, join the email list. Cool. See you guys later.